started off with wanting to do a lot of things, but not really knowing the roadmap. And I feel like you guys provide a really solid, detailed roadmap, where it takes the emotion out of it, where you just feel like, okay, based on this and this and this, this is what the purchase price should be. And then all the pre-bid and post-bid steps. Absolutely. You get the roadmap. You get a really strong, solid roadmap, and you get confidence, because when you know where you're going and why you're doing it, you just get a lot of confidence too. So, I mean, I'm ready to jump in the second part immediately. Like, I'm like, when do we start? Because it's given me like a whole roadmap of where I want to go, where I want to take it. I'm super excited, and I would recommend it wholeheartedly. It just gives you the steps of what to do and why.
Welcome, everybody. Dave Putz here from JKP Holdings. Alongside me, as always, Mr. Nathan Turner.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be.
Hopefully everyone can hear us fine today. Hopefully everyone's having a good Friday day, and look forward to an enjoyable weekend, safe and healthy weekend. I know people will be celebrating everything else. Please be safe.
Yeah.
It's this time of year, things are hectic, preparing for next year, but this week's been crazy for me. How's it been for you?
Yeah, nuts. We had some house guests show up here earlier this week, and so it's just been go, go, go. And they're out at the ski hill today. I'm going to join them later after we're done.
Good. So interesting to say that, we spend time with our kids and our family during this time, but we see each other video enough. It's really awesome. And for those who don't know, me and Nathan exchange Christmas gifts every year to kind of just celebrate our time together and whatnot. So I'm looking forward to opening that this weekend, and I'm sure we'll enjoy it. I presume we got our gift from.
We did.
Awesome.
We did. It was very good. Thank you very much.
Awesome. So I wanted to get into this topic, which is really cool because a lot of people take a lot of beginner classes out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we run into a lot of people out there who don't understand the space, want to dive in, nervously dive in, which is good. What are your thoughts on how people approach a space when they first get in?
I've been approached by a number of people that ask about books, and there are a few books out there, but because it's such a broad topic, it's tough to put everything into one book. And you can put like a few case studies and things like that. And the books that are out there are great, but it's limited because there's only so much you can explain and talk about in a book versus in some kind of a class where you've got different participation and questions and things, and all those kind of things come up. And it really helps just to have kind of that discussion going. So there are a couple of books out there that are great, and I know the guys that wrote them and they're fantastic. But it's only a slice of what you can learn because it's such a big topic.
Yeah, and also the networking is a big thing, right?
Yes.
Watching a video YouTube is great out there, but just bouncing thought processes, live feed to other people, and those people around you need to be at the same level you are. I've been part of these mastermind classes where you kind of be the smartest person in the room, or do people are way above your level, and it just doesn't fit what you're looking for.
Right.
And practicality, doing the work, not just worrying about theory, but actually diving in and practicing and making mistakes is, I think, a key item learning anything you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know both you and I both took classes early on and learned. I took classes from several different people actually, and took bits and pieces that I liked, and not that the rest of it wasn't valuable, but a big part of that was just the networking and getting to meet a different crowd of people. That was a big deal.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I think, meeting different people in the space that have different processes of how they do things and making your own is crucial. And I'm excited to hear some of the guests. I know what our plan today was to have David and Candance come on. Candance actually had to back out last minute. So it's unfortunate, But it's interesting, when we first got connected with Dave, who joined our last class on this, he had experience he didn't realize he had.
Yeah.
And then he brought that connection, which was really cool. And we're going to introduce him in just a moment. But before we go there, I want to say that those who are watching us or who are seller finance people, you guys are awesome. It is blowing up like crazy on the back end with seller finance deals and opportunities and whatnot. I got presented some commercial opportunity today that I'm going to provide by the first and the second being created. And then we have our own connections. So if you guys are seller financing subject twos, please let us know some assets you're looking to sell. And those are people who want to buy. We'll be, passing along anything that doesn't fit our cup of tea. But it's been awesome. It's
Yeah,
really
I talked to just somebody yesterday, actually two people yesterday, and the one lady, she says, wait a second. So I can create a note like this. I can pay off what I'm into it for, plus make some money, plus keep a second and get some residual income. I'm like, yeah, you can do all that. And she's like, oh my goodness, like it blew her mind. And she's like, oh, okay, I can do this a lot. I'm like, that's fantastic. Keep it
And we
coming.
got to bridge that gap, right?
Yeah.
Of the note buyer world and the originator world, which we haven't publicized it yet. We will after this. January 13th, we'll be having two big subject to buyers, originators on to talk about how to create a note securely, successfully, so that it follows all the laws. But also, what would make that note the most valuable part? What features of it do you need to make sure you add to the note when you create it? There's originations, there's licenses, debt license, all that stuff, but making notes that are sellable but also secure enough is crucial. So,
And you're creating it, usually you're creating it, most people I think get into seller financing so that they can create their note and keep it. What if you wanted to sell it? What if you wanted a lump sum of cash at some point? Wouldn't it be nice to be able to have it created properly so that you can get that? And then if you want, you can actually structure it as a business where you can go out and keep creating notes and selling them and creating notes and selling them and just have that ongoing.
yes.
So things to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. So please feel free to let us know what you got going on the outside. Post some comments in the feed. We're on LinkedIn and Facebook, and this will obviously be on YouTube. Feel free to take a look at it. We also have our podcast. But let's dive into what we got going on here. It is amazing. When we first did this idea of getting into sorry about that. So getting into this idea of teaching, we really weren't planning on doing a teaching method, but we walked into Paper Source last May. We got approached by a few people that took some advanced classes and stuff like that. But when they heard us speak, they didn't learn some of the stuff that we talk about.
Right.
So we decided to put together a 5 and a 10 week, which is an extension of 5-week class of topics that we feel is crucial in homeworks and sessions and whatnot. So we have David Gomez with us today. David,
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on. Spend a few minutes on a Friday morning to you in California and sharing your information.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to be here. It's funny you mentioned Paper Source because I actually went to Paper Source. It was the first thing I kind of dipped in there. I'm in Vegas quite a bit, and I stopped by one of those and one of the days and saw a little bit of talk and this and that. But yeah, it's funny because I had kind of dabbled around a little bit, looked at it. I'm obviously interested. I have a pretty deep mortgage background. And I was interested in investing my own money in something that I can have a lot of control over. I'd heard about notes, figured I've done just about everything in mortgage loans. This shouldn't be too hard to figure out. It kind of was. It really was. I mean, I was confused from the get-go, just kind of looking around because everybody kept talking about bidding on UPB, percentage of UPB and this and that. And just having a mortgage background and understanding rates, I kept thinking like, well, this doesn't make sense. Like just a percentage off of, everything's not equal. It's different rates. And then I happened to catch a video with you guys and Joe Kennedy, where you guys talked about bidding based on a specific yield or return. And that's when I was like, There it is. Yeah. Okay. Now this is starting to make sense. And that's how I got turned on to you guys. And yeah, then I signed up for the mastermind course and
Yeah.
got going.
So let's back up for a minute.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Where's your background? What's your background in? How did you come across notes? Give us a little bit of the backstory.
Yeah. So I years ago I started working at, well, currently I run a solar energy provider. I've done for about 8-9 years. Before that, long before that, I got into the mortgage industry as a mortgage originator with Countrywide. So started off with Countrywide like 20 years, a little over 20 years ago. Was there for a while. It was a great place to learn. Did hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of loans every month. I mean, total. And then I opened up my own mortgage company. And from there, I mean, we rode the wave of the mid 2000s, you know, mortgage market. Yeah, it really was. It was like the Wild West of like, you know, mortgage originating, right? Like it's before, you know, before the big crash and everything, it was, we did it all. And, you know, saw the crash up and close, you know, saw the cracks starting to show. And then eventually it was like, you know, it just really got crazy. And then from there, we also got into loan modifications. We did a ton, working with banks, we did a ton of modifications. So plenty of experience there. From there, I entered the solar energy industry, but I always, you know, I did mortgage loans for so long that I understand it. I love the idea of it being collateralized by real estate. So about a year ago, I had a friend of mine that I used to work with at Countrywide mentioned that he had worked at a place with another guy, another mutual friend from Countrywide, and they were working in notes. And he originally came to me about getting a job working in solar, and he started talking about notes. And I was like, hold on, forget. Yeah, we can talk about the job later, but let's talk about this. This is interesting, you know. And he started talking about, you know, performing notes, non-performing notes, and how they did modifications and this and that. And I just thought like, oh wow, this is really interesting because this is like right up my alley, what I understand. And so I thought at that point, I thought this isn't going to be very hard at all. I'm just going to like figure it out, get into it, you know. And my friend couldn't really tell me like, because I was trying to like, okay, so how do you figure out exactly like how to what to bid? And he didn't really understand, even though he had worked on the back end collecting and all that stuff, doing modifications, he didn't really understand how to bid on it or how it was. And I talked to a couple of people trying to figure that out, and nobody could really tell me. You know, it was a lot of like, oh yeah, you just bid on a percentage of the UPB. So I'm like, okay, I get that. But how do you know how does it didn't make sense? And a lot of people couldn't really give me a straight answer on that. It was just bid on it. You know, you bid low and then you sell high. Okay, yeah, all right. But so it didn't really make sense until I saw that video where I was like, that's it. Of course, you have a specific yield or return in mind, and then you back your way into what the purchase price is going to be. That made perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's definitely a little more confusing than what I would, you know, with my background in mortgages, I thought like, oh yeah, I'm just going to dive right in and figure this out. But yeah, it's a little different. There's a whole world in notes that doesn't seem to like follow the whole yield or specific return.
It's
Isn't that interesting with that kind of background? And it was
yeah, you
still
would think
kind
the
of a
math
learning
would be
process.
there, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was just I mean, a mortgage calculator, you whip it out and you know, but yeah, it took quite some time. And I talked to a lot of people.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
We're hopefully going to change the world with the theories out there, and whoever's teaching it, hopefully will convert them as well.
Yeah.
So one of some of the things that you shared in the class was really interesting to me is that like while you're Countrywide, which those who don't know, go watch Big Short, you'll find all about Countrywide, right? That you every week you walked in and your origination got easier and easier.
Yeah. And that was actually even like after I left Countrywide when I was running my own mortgage company, because then you had wholesale reps or account managers show up and they're pushing their product basically like, hey, we're from so-and-so bank. These are our underwriting guidelines. And every week practically they got smaller and smaller. Like you
Wow.
would go from, and you would be able to lend more. That was the crazy thing. Like, your LTV got higher and higher to the point where you were at 100% financing. And they went from wanting to see income documentation on everything, pay stubs and W-2s, to not wanting to see pay stubs or W-2s, but show us a bank statement that they have money at least. And then it went to, don't show us the bank statement, just tell us how much they have. So it got smaller and smaller and smaller. And yeah, eventually there really weren't any guidelines.
I wonder what
Holy
happened.
smokes.
Yeah,
Why everything kind of changed.
right.
Which sounds totally insane. Just curious, at that time, did you think this is dangerous, or was it just like, whatever?
At the time, everybody was so into that values will just keep, values were just increasing and increasing.
Yeah.
And everybody had the idea, oh, you'll just refinance. You just bail yourself out. Okay, great. You're in this pay option arm, which is where you pay 1% of the interest, but your rate is 6%. So your balance is actually growing every month. Pretty scary, right? But you'll just refinance. That's like it. We used to always show everybody a 30-year fixed.
Yeah.
But it got to the point that, here's a 30-year fixed. Okay, so here's the 3% interest only, and the payment is a third of what it is on the 30-year fixed. No homeowner would ever touch that 30-year fixed. It got to the point where you could try to push this, but you wouldn't do any loans. You had to have the coolest, newest product. And so everything was just, I think everything was just based on that the values were going to keep rising.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Huh.
So it's weird that you came on the scene with very little education because you leaned on your history, your knowledge, and your experience to kind of get you into a sector that you partially knew already.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you dove in with us head first. What was your first impression of this idea of the pathway of class, homework, taking, accountability kind of thing, and having that kind of conversation? What was your first impression of walking in?
I loved it because there's structure to it. First we started talking about a buy box, about creating your buy box and what do you want to have in it and this and that. Super structured, right? Like and that was the first time I really heard about a buy box. Yeah, I think I actually heard about it first. I think I saw a video with you guys and Candance.
Yes,
you guys did, and she mentioned about you guys were talking about a buy box. So once you guys started talking about that, putting that together felt really like, okay, this is structured. This is actually, have intentions here of what I want to do. So that, and then from there, I mean, obviously we started looking at buy box, filtering tape based on your buy box, not just looking at all these, loans just because they're on the tape, filtering it down so you actually look at what it is you're interested in and what you're, which was really cool. And then just going from there, the whole calculator, building your own calculator, putting it together, and I love that whole idea. I mean, there's so much more that eventually I want to help, with you guys' help, build that out.
It's easy to run a calculation on one single asset on a financial calculator, right? That the yield is a very easy, quick formula.
Yeah.
But working on non-performing or even performing with the possibility of it going non-performing, that calculator is completely different from an easy, simple time value financial calculator, right? Can you share a little about what you learned with building a non-performing bid calculator that can automate your bidding process?
Yeah. I mean, the whole the fact that it takes into account expenses like foreclosure expenses, and you really start focusing on worst case scenarios. Mm-hmm. And the scenarios that are most likely to happen right off the bat, because you have everything spread out. I love that. I mean, it takes into account all those, potential foreclosure, insurance,
time frames, right? Foreclosure time frames, like state,
time frames, and then backing right back into the specific rate that you're looking for, or return that you're looking for, yield that you're looking for. So that it's just so structured, it's not, it's not just sitting there with a loan calculator in your hand and just like, okay, here's what I want to, what I'm hoping, and deducting the servicing fee out of the payment, and then backing into it to see what the actual real rate is.
Yeah.
Because that right off the bat, I mean, I'm a mortgage guy, and I didn't think of that. Like, of course, that whatever it is, $35, $30, whatever it is, you deduct that out of the payment. That's going to change your rate of return immediately.
Yeah.
No, so I love that, the whole structure of the calculator. And there's a lot more that I need to learn there. I mean, net present value and all that stuff, like really understanding it, wrapping my head around it. But
And IRR, right? People calculate everything on yield and whatnot. We discussed in class that not all loans go 30 years, right? You may not have a loan go for 20 years. They may only last for 7. And you have to project that what happens if, and you can sell a loan in 5 years. So it's
and reinstatement. That's one thing I haven't really taken into account. What if they reinstate? Stuff like that. I mean, the possibility of that,
It could be a great thing. It could be a terrible thing.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So when you're building that calculator, you're right. You can constantly add on. There's nothing fixed about it. It morphs as you grow. But having that mindset and that addition to do it, like you can do it for multiple assets. We're showing you how you can go by row and pop up, and just change it and automatically calculate all your information within seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've kind of right now, mine's like a hybrid of, it's like got Nate's calculator, but then it's got Dave's, like, being able to pull from different, you can have like 15 different loans and you just change the number and all of a sudden all the numbers change, and which is really cool.
Yeah. That's awesome.
If you didn't take this class, this class, where do you think you'd be with your note investing?
I feel like I would be in the same spot where I just realized it's about bidding on a specific yield, but the actual structure of it, because that's where I start to get confidence, is the structure, laying it out a certain way, the buy box, and then from there filtering the tape, and then making sure you have everything covered, all the different worst case scenarios based on a certain rate that you want, or a yield that you want, rate of return that you want. And, kind of backing into it. And then at that point, start selecting ones that you want to bid on. And then the whole pre-bid due diligence, you guys went really deep into that step by step by step. I basically took notes, and then I rewrote the notes every week just to like really go over it and have it nice and clean. The pre-bid and then the post-bid, like after the bid's been accepted. So just having you guys really went through it step by step by step by step. And I think a lot of people need that, especially when you're starting off. It's just like a roadmap of like, okay, all right, this is
it's easy.
Yeah.
It also takes the emotion out of it, right? Feeling
exactly.
I like this, I don't like that. It really kind of clearly goes through and says, okay, here's your scenarios, here's what happens. And it almost can turn your brain off at the point where you plug, go, because you set up the box to accept things and then kick it back out.
It just becomes a numbers game at that point.
Absolutely. People ask me all the time, so do you travel to go look at these houses? And I said, no, I don't. And part of it is because it's convenient and I don't have to, but part of it is once you actually get into a property, if you spend too much time on a property, you get emotionally involved in that property.
Right.
And then you're like, well, this could work. If we just did this, this could work. And if we just, I think I can make this one work. And I learned that early on, is like, don't try to make something work.
Yeah.
Go by the numbers. Yeah. If the numbers work, do it.
If they work, they work, but don't try to push the numbers to make them work. Yeah.
No. If it works, great. If it doesn't, there's another one.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah. No, I love the idea of taking the emotion out of it, that it's just numbers. It's going to fit into, and this is the purchase price based on your numbers and everything you've put into the calculator.
Yeah.
What was one big surprise that you didn't expect from the class, either what you learned or how you feel now, that if you look back, you say, I didn't know that was going to happen? Anything that you learned, or what you feel like now that was different prior to taking it?
I think the loan calculator just being being so structured, to me, like there's that just makes me feel comfortable, because it's like, all right, let me just go through the process, the steps here, And at the end of the day, it's going to spit out what, what I can pay for something
Yeah.
based on the return. It was just so structured, and I love that. I love structure, period. But that just it makes you confident. It's not, you're not winging it, or like off the top of your head trying to remember things. It's all there.
It's very similar when you originate a note, right? There's no feeling when you originate a note. You run the numbers, you run the calculation, you plug it into a agreement form, and you go with it, right?
Yeah. It's only the loan officer just like, please approve this loan. Yeah, but no, it either, that's the way it's supposed to be with underwriting. You either qualify or you don't.
Right.
So, like I said before, Candance was unable to make it. Dave was gonna be part of our second 5-week course. We're gonna run that in February. We are restarting the 5-week course January 3rd, next Tuesday. So I'm gonna provide you guys with a link. It's just a form for those who are attending today's webinar. I'll put that in the Facebook chat as well as in the LinkedIn for those who are interested. And if you're interested in getting into it, let us know. We're inside the email should be a code to get some discount off on the first 5 weeks and whatnot if you want to get into it. To me, I think it's valued awesomely because I think that the resources, the data points, the time frames for foreclosure, all that's built into this. Like you have the resources at your fingertips. It's almost like you just plug and play from here, and you're now in a position to start buying notes. In that first 5 weeks, you're ready to go.
And the fun thing for Dave and I is this is actually fun for us. It's not like we're trying to build an empire of students and all that kind of thing. We actually just enjoy doing this. It's just fun. And so we're more than happy to share what we've learned and our process and what we do today versus what we did 10 years ago.
And we share a lot. Before we went on, I was sharing with David about some of the stuff we got going on in the background and some of the cool stuff that's building for 2023. Which I think will be ridiculously awesome. Some of the stuff we're already getting into has changed how I'm looking at things already. And that's okay. We're not going to buy traditional situations as we used to because of the return we're getting on other ends of things. And we'll talk about that in the class as well.
And quick plug, we'll be talking about that kind of thing at DME coming up in June.
Please make sure you get down to Nashville. Check out DME.
Yeah.
And
talking about all kinds of cool stuff
with people, right? It's all about the networking. Get down to DME, join the classes, and start networking and have that constant conversation because these people will help you grow and challenge you and make you better. I like to be challenged. I'm sure you guys all do too. If you have a question, David, please feel free to put in the chat. I know it's a holiday weekend, so we'll see what goes on with everyone else going on here. When you go through due diligence, I'm not sure, David, if you've done a deal yet. I know numbers are kind of crazy right now. Where was your weakness or where were you nervous about besides pricing? Where was your fear with due diligence on what to look at?
I think just the steps themselves, right? Like, because that's not having gone through it and, due diligence, that makes perfect sense to me. But what are the steps? And, we just went through like the steps one by one. I mean, like I've like typed it all out based on, what we went over. And that gave me just having, like I mentioned from the pre-bid, like starting with your buy box and then filtering the tape and then entering in all the loans there. And then one by one going through them to make sure you had all the expenses covered for worst case scenarios and exits and stuff like that. That gives me a lot of confidence. I have a step-by-step. It takes the emotion out of it. It's a roadmap, just go through it. And then the same thing with the post-bid, I'm just like now starting to, stick my toe in the water, really plan on getting pretty active here in January. December is just such a crazy month with everything going on.
One of the things we wanted to have in part of this whole thing is that you're going to do things. Right, you're going to walk away. You're building the calculator. We're not showing you a calculator and saying, "Here you go." How difficult was it to play and start messing with things and fixing things and adjusting things? How difficult was it at first to just get used to it?
I mean, I think at first when you look at a calculator, right, you know, obviously, Dave, you got like the Star Wars of all calculators, calculator to end all calculators, right? Like it's pretty impressive when you first see it, you know.
Yeah.
So I started, you know, with Nathan's and then started making tweaks here and there and everything. But once you understand it, and once you wrap your head around it and you just do it over and over and mess with it, it's not that complicated anymore. You know, that's the great thing.
For those people who are using just time value calculations or percentage UPB, what do you say to them that never had a non-performing calculator?
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, if you're basing anything just on UPB, I mean, there's just a whole world that's missing there, because a 3% loan is not the same as a 12% rate loan. You know,
Yep.
you can bid 80% of, you know, UPB on one and 80% on the other, and you'll have completely different yields, completely different returns. One's not going to be, you're going to need to discount it so heavily on a 3% note that, you know, it's not going to make sense. Probably not going to make sense for the seller. He's going to have to give it to you, give it away just about. And so, yeah, you absolutely have to do this in order to completely understand bidding and the whole process of it. Yeah.
I'm gonna shake your head.
Yeah.
I've got Candace's email here.
Yeah, so Candance did write a little blurb up. She was unable to make it today.
Yeah.
And whatnot. And Stacy, we have a form. You can fill the form out, and I'm sure I can get Nathan to send all the details over to you as well. I can repost the webinar form for you. Just send it, and then Nathan will get a link to it as well, Stacy. So I'm sure Nathan will share it online here too. But
Yeah, DME tickets aren't live yet. They'll be live here in the first couple of weeks in January. Just getting the payment thing set up. That's been more difficult than it should be, but we're working on that. Should be fixed here.
we're note investors, not these programmers and coders.
No, exactly. Yeah. So here's Candace's. So she says, sorry, I couldn't be live with you on the call today. I wanted to share a few thoughts about your 5-week and 10-week class series. The topics that most interested me in the first 5 weeks were the note math and building your financial calculator topics. As I mentioned in our previous conversation, I do have and use a comprehensive bid calculator that I received as part of my other training, but I wanted to learn more about the way that they work and how to build one if I wanted to. Math has never been my strong suit, and business math is newer to me, but your explanations and our discussions clarified a lot. What I gained from the past few weeks was a deeper understanding of how the bid calculator works and how to manipulate the data in different ways depending on your desired results. I also love seeing the differences between how the two of you approach your buy boxes and bid strategies and the resources you're sharing with the group, and will save newer investors a lot of time for sure. It's incredibly helpful to have state-specific resources all in one place, and your 13 things to ask the seller for is definitely comprehensive. That was a good one. One thing I realized is that based on someone's preferred learning style, there are many ways to design and analyze to show the calculations. This isn't something we talked about, but as I was reviewing the videos and thinking about the various layouts on Dave's spreadsheet, I recognized that the visual way data is presented can make a big difference on how easily we understand what could be a complicated topic. Nathan and many others use the 10B2 calculator to do the same thing in a seemingly simpler way, but that might not be enough for many others. I'm specifically thinking of the section of Dave's spreadsheet that has the 4 yellow boxes at the top to check for what you're looking to solve, whether yield, purchase price, number of months, or payment amount, and just thought that was a great visual presentation and method to play around with all the numbers from the various methods of manipulation. I always think there's a lot of value to be found in a group setting, and loved hearing the questions and thought processes from everyone else as we had our discussion. And looking forward, I definitely think that the second 5 weeks is going to get even better, like compound value. I think the advanced bankruptcy week and the advanced strategies weeks, which you said you'll cover topics like partials, creating notes, and REOs, will be exceptional addition, and aren't strategies I've often seen offered in all-in-one place before. Thanks so much for providing a small collaborative place for me to learn more about note math, the in-depth workings of spreadsheet analyzers, and your different perspectives on methods, and a great group of people to continue growing with. wishing everyone peaceful and prosperous New Year. So that's Candace.
Thank you, Candance. I appreciate that. I'm doing
Oh, that's nice.
watch this later. So it's great, right? And that's one of the things we wanted this class to do is have a lot of stuff in it. And it's weird hearing from other people like Candace who's taken 10-week mastermind classes, say to the class, I never learned that before. And
Yeah.
it was really refreshing to us to say, wow, we're actually on the right pathway here. This isn't what we want to do. This is what we like doing, and we like sharing it.
Yeah.
And I think that people who are nervous about spending some money on knowledge will supersede what you'll be in a position to do after you're done.
It's yeah. When you think about, 12 years ago, 14 years ago, when we first started, oh my goodness, we didn't know anything. Nothing. Nothing. And we were like,
Calculators, knowledge.
literally making it up as we went, and learning a financial calculator. I've never seen that before. I'd never even heard of it before.
Yeah.
And learning it all as we went. And then just being able to kind of give back and give that knowledge that we've acquired over the years it's
We
just
were
fun.
just lucky though, because the prices were so low. Today, you can't get lucky. It's
No.
not in a market that you can just make an offer and be wrong somewhere and you'll be okay because you can't buy as low as we used to buy.
That's just it. We got lucky in the timing of it, where we could make all kinds of mistakes and we'd still be okay. And today, you can't make those same mistakes that we made. You get yourself in a bunch of trouble.
So you have the knowledge part and also collaboration. These aren't people who are explaining what unpaid balance means, right? We're not explaining the basics. We're diving in and going into it and showing all different steps, but also showing like you can't always bid on a performing asset as a performing asset, right? You have to watch out for the gotchas unless you're buying a partial.
Right.
But having that whole calculator out there and be able to switch from one loan to another, I think is the only way to go. Because if you're bidding on a performing asset, expecting to do what you're going to do, or going in with a mindset that the borrower is going to do X, is fool's gold to me. Yeah.
And for this, even for the seller finance people, this is a whole other category of investing that same like David, you've got some experience, but this is just a different spin on the same kind of thing, and just understanding the other side of the business.
Yeah, and some of the people will be joining our next week classes are going to be seller finance people. So one part you may want to jump into is just to collaborate with these people. Me and Nathan talked to a woman the other day. She has 40 loans she wants to sell.
Yeah.
And let me give you a little hint. The yield she's giving is not 10. It's much higher, right? So those kind of people in your corner collaborating with, you can buy loans from her, other people she's already connected with, and this whole team builds bigger and bigger simply because who's part of that group will continue to grow. And we have some other ideas what we can do with the group once the 10 weeks over and what our thoughts are on that. So stay tuned for that plan. But we're trying to grow a networking team of different kind of investors with different backgrounds, different knowledge, and different success rates.
So and really just to give a little bit more color on that. So she's selling those 40 notes because she wants to invest into this hotel. I mean, that's fantastic. That's wonderful. I can't even, put my head around that. I've looked at hotels, but anyway, that's a different story. But she's taking what she's got, getting the capital back out of it so she can go invest in something else that she finds fun and exciting.
And even better than that, she's like, listen, I'm going to take that money and make 300%. So do you guys want a little 20% deal? Sure. She's literally going to make hundreds of 100%.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter what her yield is to her. She sees the capital. So there's a win-win on both sides. That's astronomical. So definitely jump into the class for that. We'll be looking forward to having them on too and be part of a growing. So David, before we let you go, and before Nathan asks this question too, for those people who are interested in getting in, any final thoughts of why they should do it or why they shouldn't be held up on either the cost or the time? What are they investing in to make sure they get out of what they're putting in?
Yeah, no, I mean, just based on my experience, I mean, I started off with wanting to do a lot of things, but not really knowing the roadmap. And I feel like you guys provide a really solid, detailed roadmap, where it takes the emotion out of it, where you just feel like, okay, based on this and this and this, this is what the purchase price should be. And then all the pre-bid and post-bid steps. Absolutely. You get the roadmap. You get a really strong, solid roadmap, and you get confidence, because when where you're going and why you're doing it, you just get a lot of confidence too. So, I mean, I'm ready to jump in the second part immediately. Like, I'm like, when do we start? Because it's given me like a whole roadmap of where I want to go, where I want to take it. I'm super excited, and I would recommend it wholeheartedly. It just gives you the steps of what to do and why.
Thank you.
That's really good to hear, because that was our goal. We wanted to give people confidence and just being able to move forward and actually get going. Like not just thinking about it, not just,
right.
Oh, this is really cool. No.
It's so easy to do that. You can watch a bunch of videos and this and that and dabble around, but this actually gives you step by step and gives you that confidence to get out there.
Oh, that's great. Good.
So before we let you go, Nathan has one last question. For those who tune in, usually probably know this question, but go ahead.
So you've got an interesting background coming from the countrywide in your own mortgage company. I mean, you saw it coming before. And so given that background and what you saw in the past, where are we today? Like, what kind of shades do we see?
Great question. And here's why I believe it's different this time around. Not saying that obviously values are already starting to come down. I mean, I see it here in California, but back then there was no income documentation, not even assets verified, like that you had them in a bank statement. It was all just made up, basically. It got to the point where they didn't want pay stubs, W-2s. You'd literally get people, underwriters saying, hey, don't send it to me, because if you send it to me, we have to look at it. Don't send it to me, right? That was what was going on back then. So it was built on just a house of cards. Today, all the loans that have been done in the last 10 years, they're all income verification. They're legit loans. So that's why I don't think we're going to see the crash that we saw back then.
Okay.
They're real loans. They were actually originated the right way. Whereas back then, there was no originating at one point. I mean, underwriting at one point. It was just all
signing papers.
Yeah. So I mean, although I think values are going to come down and stuff like that based on high interest rates, et cetera, I don't think we're going to have the crash anything close to what we had back then.
Okay, interesting.
Do you still see a recession causing some kind of foreclosure influx?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I mean, obviously, out here, I mean, I see the California real estate market, the high rates have definitely pumped the brakes on it. I see sellers dropping their, I still get all those emails, and I see sellers just dropping their prices every week. They seem to be coming down. And then obviously the economy, nobody knows exactly where it's heading, but everybody's talking about recession. So I think it'll slow things down, but I don't think it's going to go off a cliff like it did, 10, 12 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. We'll see what happens here. It'll be interesting to see.
We'll definitely be sharing some of the things we'll be doing in 2023 in the class. I think that is the angle, that if you still want to be with notes, I think you need to just shift what you've been doing to a different sector. And there's a lot available in that sector. So I look forward to
$30 billion
a
year.
3 billion, was it? Some of that was nuts.
I think wasn't it 30 billion?
30 billion.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that are available, and there's different ways of getting access to things like that. But we're just tipping our toe in it, and it seems to be just pure gold at this point. So we're excited by it. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm going to disconnect from the Facebook Live, but we're going to do an after talk here. But I appreciate everyone coming on. I hope everyone's weekend is good and healthy. I know there's some people in our space that are feeling ill right now. I hope you guys get better and things kind of work out for you guys. But stay safe. Hope you have a great New Year's, and we look for you coming on. Join us January 13th that we have Mark coming on, Monroe, and then we also have Nick coming on, who are two big subject to originator who created thousands and thousands of loans, and it will structure notes a certain way and talk about how to make it so it's sellable, and protect the borrower, because the push is, we're gonna protect borrowers, which is the Dodd-Frank kind of mindset. And we'll also have Max join as well to talk about structuring notes in a way that is legal and binding, but also a way to sell the note for the highest dollar amount that you can get, and what ways or options you have. So cool. Well, thank you again, David. Appreciate you joining us on the live feed. We're disconnecting there, and I hope
thank you.
everyone does well for the weekend.
Anytime, guys. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks, David.